Welcome back. Tonight, we're going to take a look at what the Washington Post fact-checker calls, for the first time yet, an outright lie. It's the Trump team's changing story about payoffs to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. We thought we should put it all in order, so let's review the bidding. November 2016, the Wall Street Journal first reports a hush money payment for an alleged affair. Hope Hicks, then the campaign spokesperson, says the White House had no knowledge of any of this. Let's fast forward. February 2018. Michael Cohen claims he used money out of his own pocket with no involvement from Trump or the campaign. Now we go to April 2018. Donald Trump tells reporters on Air Force One he didn't know anything about the payment.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
Let's go up another month, May of 2018. Rudy Giuliani tells Sean Hannity that actually Trump did reimburse Cohen.
Funneled through law firm, and the president repaid it.
Oh, I didn't know he did.
Yeah. He didn't know about the specifics of it, as far as I know. But he did know about the general arrangement that Michael would take care of things like this.
Okay, now let's fast forward another 2 months. July, just last month, Cohen's lawyer releases a secret tape from before the election showing Trump himself aware.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David,
And yesterday, President Trump finally says this.
Later on, I knew. Later on. They weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me.
Folks, President Trump and the people surrounding him doggedly misled the public on this story for more than 21 months. And it raises the question, where else is the president's truth not the truth? Let's bring back the panel. Sahil, Tiffany, Matthew. I know, Matthew, that the Stormy Daniels is baked in for his supporters. But does it matter when people realize they've been lied to for 2 years?
No. I don't
Does it matter to you?
It does. Well, I mean, this is what I expect. Right. I mean, I think Trump's bluster, he lives in the moment. And so what he says at any given moment is going to get him to the next moment.
That's all he cares about.
And I think his supporters, as long as he is doing what they want him to do, they allow him the space to live by his tactics. Tactics, by the way, that he's kind of abided by for 30 years.
It's like a form of buying time, Tiffany, as I always say, that he'll lie in the moment just to get out of the moment.
All right. I agree with your point, but I also think we can go one step further and say that he really, truly doesn't understand campaign finance laws. I mean, I don't think this is feigning ignorance.
Understand or doesn't care?
Both. I really do think it's both. I don't think he's feigning ignorance here. Again, this is his first job in government. So I do think he's, learning trial by error. One thing that he said in the Fox News interview that was another clear lie is, of course, now he hardly knows Michael Cohen and he wasn't his fixer. Well, you could have fooled me because he certainly tried to fix the situation with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. And long before this ever happened, how they even met is he was a fixer in one of the issues that he had with one of his tenants in one of his apartment buildings. So this is clearly someone he's close with. And yet again, he flips and tries to put distance there when obviously the people have seen over the years that's not the case. And I don't think his supporters will ever hold him accountable for any of these lies.
But Sahil, the one reason I wanted to do this anatomy and just show it over time is that this is the challenge we have in our industry in covering this administration. Right. Is that, we're like, we kind of know that this is likely being misled us, and we're trying to help the public realize that this is probably misleading, and eventually, and here we are. But this is what makes covering him such a challenge.
Right. We can point it out, and it's our job to point it out, and we do point it out when there are falsehoods and mistruths. It's up to voters. We can't control how they think. They're going to have to decide how to process it. There are small falsehoods and lies that, the president has made, whether it's about crowd sizes or whether it's about his electoral college victory. This is extremely serious. I mean, this is about whether there was a conspiracy to violate campaign finance laws by obtaining foreign help, which directly goes to the mandate of Robert Mueller and the issue of Russia coordination. So these mistruths and these lies really do matter. And I think, unlike some of the other ones, which definitely baked in, I think his critics have concluded that he's not a truth teller. His supporters don't care in those cases. Right. This matters.
I guess the way I look at it is that while this incident may not matter, is this a pattern? Right? Does this become a pattern that we will see suddenly no collusion, and then suddenly we're going to see, well, all right, it was a collusion, but anybody would have taken the meeting. We've seen a similar change of story with the Trump Tower meeting.
Right. Yeah, you could.
We're getting close to the truth.
Same path.
You could tell we're getting close to the eventual truth, but they're not going to get there until Mueller tells us what it is.
I think this is why the Mueller report will be so important, because even though it will be criticized by Trump and his supporters, you will kind of have a credible document and a statement of all the facts that we know.
And by the way, the Trump supporting juror sort of reinforces your point when she talked about, well, my God, there was the boxes of evidence.
Right.
Yeah.
And once you have that, then the dynamic might change. And of course, the same thing applies if the Democrats take over one or both houses of the Congress. All of these changing statements will be thrown back into President Trump's face because of the nature of his opposition.
And we have to keep in mind that we still don't know what the special counsel knows, right? So I think the evidence is literally going to come through dripping. Like, we haven't seen the last of this. There's going to be a lot more. And so all these Republicans who are standing in silence, at a certain point, they're going to be forced to speak out. And I would just say, Sahil, I do think that, I've worked in media for 20 years. I do think the media, it's like trying to catch confetti covering this administration. But I think sometimes there is a challenge.
That's a much nicer way of putting it. Remember my favorite one that Steve Hayes put it? He did it differently. He talked about cleaning up after your dog. It's a different
I'll say
metaphor.
that one when we're not
Catching
on the
confetti is a much nicer way. I like that. That's a much cleaner way of doing it.
Literally, we all look like that Kermit the Frog meme every morning trying to, follow what's happening in this administration. But I would challenge, though, I do think, this is one of the things that we try to do on my platform is focus on the issues. The viewers do tend to want yellow journalism and that salacious headline. And I do think there's a lot of other things that's happening. And so when you have these issues happening in the media, and then, somebody says it's snowing outside, and the media feels like, well, we have to find somebody who says it isn't snowing outside. I think this is where you get voters caught up in not challenging this president when he does blatantly lie.
Well, this is where, we fact check a lot, and this is what, we're doing in this segment. We look out the window and decide whether it's snowing.
Exactly.
And in this case, it's not snowing.
Truth isn't true. All right, I will leave it there. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.